Rumor has it he has a child graduating today. I'd like to get him to that graduation. And this is file item 25, AB 2498. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair. Thank you for your accommodation. Thank you to my colleagues as well for letting me present. AB 2498 brings justice to human trafficking victims by strengthening survivor protections.
And if you might, in your presentation, indicate, I believe there are some amendments that you'll be taking as well.
I'll start with that. I'm taking the amendments. I'm very happy to. Thank you for your assistance in making the bill a stronger bill. I really appreciate working with your office. This bill will bring justice to human trafficking victims by strengthening survivor protections and by holding exploiters and buyers accountable in the judicial process. The bill essentially does two things. First, it adds the crimes of human trafficking to the list of criminal actions that take precedence over other criminal actions in the order of trial, so it gives them priority, and that's at the discretion of the judge. It's not mandatory. And second, it provides additional protections for victims of human trafficking by giving survivors the ability to opt in to having not only their own names and images masked from public record, but also the names, images, and addresses of their immediate family members. This bill, I believe, takes strong steps to protect the privacy of victims of human trafficking and ensure that their cases can be heard in a timely manner. With me to testify in support, I have Joni Levins, Alameda County Assistant District Attorney and Head of the Sexual Assault Unit.
Thank you very much. Witnesses, please proceed.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members. I actually run the Sexual Assault Unit at the Alameda County District Attorney's Office, and I'm here on behalf of Alameda County DA Nancy O'Malley, who's in support of AB 2498. Victims of sexual assault generally need protection in terms of their identity and addresses, things of that nature, but more so than any victims, trafficking victims really fall into this category. My experience as a DA has been that you do have sexual assault victims of rape or forced types of sexual conduct that face risks, but those perpetrators rarely go back to retaliate against victims. We don't see that as often in these cases. What we do see with traffickers, because of the nature of the relationship, is that desire to continue to control those victims and to retaliate against them. And so the portion of this that allows these victims to have their identity, their families' identities, their images protected, I think is paramount because they face such unusual risks at the hands of their offenders. With regard to taking precedence, we already have a Penal Code section 1048, which deals with cases that take precedence. And those cases include child, witness, or victim cases of any nature. Elders over the age of 70 are protected under that particular code section. People that are victims of forcible sexual assault, such as rape, digital penetration, sodomy, oral copulation, domestic violence cases take precedence, so that with the backlog of cases that we see in the criminal justice system, those victims don't have to wait. Trafficking victims, again, fall into that area where it is really imperative that those cases move through quickly because we run the risk of having perpetrators gain access to those victims while we're trying to go after their initial perpetrator. And so I do believe this is a really important step toward protecting these extremely vulnerable victims that face horrific risks in terms of the crime. On behalf of the Alameda County District Attorney's Office, we respectfully ask for your aye vote in this matter.
Thank you. And I would like to note that there are two parts to this bill. The first part is within the jurisdiction of this committee on the exempting the names and addresses and so forth of victims from the California Public Records Act. The second part, which is why the bill is double referred to Senate Public Safety, dealing with the priority issue, and they will analyze that more thoroughly there. So that, again, while I think many of us are as empathetic or sympathetic, I should say, as possible about the horrific nature of this crime, that second part will be, again, referred to the Public Safety Committee. Are there any other witnesses in support of this measure? If you'd step forward, please. Witnesses in support?
Asha Harris on behalf of the California State Sheriff's Association in support.
Thank you. Other witnesses in support? Are there any witnesses in opposition? Seeing none, any questions from the members? Motion? Moved by Senator Wojciechowski. I want to thank you for bringing this bill. The whole issue of human trafficking is one that, as I understand, has become an epidemic, and that we're finding a lot of these drug cartels recognizing that it's safer for them and more profitable to traffic women and young people versus drugs. It's safer for them. It's something that our society isn't quite prepared to address, or at least hasn't been, and I appreciate your taking this, I think, very important step, and I hope that as a legislature we will start looking more intently and intensely at this whole issue. It is just horrifying. So thank you for the measure. We have a motion. Please call the roll.
The motion is due pass as amended to the Senate Public Safety Committee. Jackson?
Aye.
Jackson, aye. Morlock? Anderson? Aye. Anderson, aye. Hertzberg? Leno? Aye. Leno, aye. Monning? Aye. Monning, aye. Wojciechowski? Aye. Wojciechowski, aye.
All right, that bill has 5 votes, enough to get out, but we'll keep it on call for the absent members. Thank you, and congratulations on your graduate.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, colleagues. Thank you, staff.
All right, at this point, the next file order is AB 1580 by Assemblymember Gatto, and as I understand it, Assemblymember, I'm sorry, number 5 is the Judiciary Committee, AB 1520, and Assemblymember Stone will be presenting that item, followed by, I believe you also have AB 1684. So, and a couple more. You're a heavy hitter today, as we say. All right, well, let's start with file item 5, AB 1520. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Senators. AB 1520 is clarifying an issue that has arisen through the process of the drought. With respect to the Public Records Act, SB 448 back in 1997 gave an exception in order to try and protect the records of individuals, residents as private citizens. And what's been happening, and especially because of the drought, is there are certain agencies that are trying to use that exemption to not disclose private commercial usage of water. And this is also true for electricity or really any utility in this case. And so what this bill is meant to do is clarify the issue that the existing law that was from SB 448 was meant to protect residential information so that you're not giving out name, address, and other information that could be detrimental to individuals, but the public does have an interest in knowing who the highest water users are, electrical users, and others. So this clarifies that that is not an exemption that can be used to protect the information or the usage for private commercial developers. That's really all this bill does, and with that, I respectfully request your aye vote.
Thank you very much. Witnesses in support.
Yes, hi. Thank you, Madam Chair. My name is Peter Scheer, and I'm the Executive Director of the First Amendment Coalition. And we are strongly in support of this bill. We actually were involved in litigation with several utility districts in Southern California that is very closely, those cases are very closely related to this bill. The point I would like to drive home here is that this is really a very, very small change in existing law, but a terribly important change. Existing law exempts, under the Public Records Act, disclosure generally of the names and usage information of utility customers, and in this case, we're particularly focused on water utility customers. And what this bill would do is simply confine that exemption to residential customers, so that residential customers would continue to enjoy the protection of confidentiality for their usage information and for their names and addresses and so forth associated with their utility bills. That was clearly the original intent of this bill in 1990, of this law, existing law in 1997, when it was enacted. But what the amendment would then, the effect of the amendment then would be to clarify that while residential customers continue to have this protection, there is no similar secrecy for corporate utility customers, for government agencies, for any large institutions or organizations. And I think the reasons are quite obvious. The law was originally designed to protect privacy. Individual customers, people like you and I, we do have a legitimate privacy interest in our names and our utility usage, our bills. But corporations do not. They never have, they shouldn't now, and they shouldn't in the future. Corporate customers may have privacy interests, but they're not implicated in this law or in this bill. We're talking simply about the usage of corporations, or as I say, also government agencies.
If you could wrap it up, please. If you could wrap it up, please.
All right.
I tell you what, it's been about 2 minutes, 45 seconds, so we will assume that you have made your statement, and if there are questions, we'll make sure we come right back to you.
Thank you very much.
All righty, very good. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members, Jim Ewart for the California Newspaper Publishers Association. While the stated purpose for this is the potential for getting information for those that may have overused the water allotment, especially in times of drought, that have exceeded policies that have been established by local water agencies. What this really comes down to is information that the public has to determine whether or not those agencies are indeed following their own policies. And it's incumbent upon the public to hold those agencies' feet to the fire, especially when we're asking people to withhold their water use. Their lawns are brown, they're holding buckets underneath their shower spigots, and other users, in this case commercial users, are not. And so this information is vital to make that determination whether the agency is playing favorites, whether they're looking the other way, and without this information, the public cannot do that. So we urge your aye vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Other witnesses in support, name and affiliation, please.
Thank you, Chair and members. Jonathan Nelson on behalf of the Community Water Center, as well as Clean Water Action and Support.
Thank you.
Kyle Jones with Sierra Club California, and also for California League of Conservation Voters in support. Thank you.
Thank you.
Phoebe Seaton, Leadership Council for Justice and Accountability and support.
Thank you.
Bill Alio, Environmental Working Group. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other witnesses in support? All right, witnesses in opposition, please step forward. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and committee members. My name is Mario DiBernardo. I'm with the Northern California Power Agency. We're a public agency consisting of various city-owned utilities throughout Northern California and as far south as Lompoc. Before I get into our opposition, I want to explain that I want to highlight that the testimony is mostly focused on the water issue. We are a power agency, and our concerns would be addressed if energy usage data was not within the scope of this bill. And the reason being is that our city-owned electric utilities place great importance in protecting customer privacy. Our customers, including tech companies, we have City of Santa Clara, City of Palo Alto, Alameda, in the heart of Silicon Valley, are part of our membership, and the tech companies in those areas go through great lengths to protect operational data, including energy data, as that can show whether they're working on a new product, whether they're going through an economic downturn. This is information that would be extremely valuable to competitors as well as third-party vendors, and so we feel it's extremely important to protect that as well as these companies. We also last year worked on a bill, AB 802, which became law. It was authored by Assemblymember Williams. And what it did is create a process for energy usage data to go to the Energy Commission so that they can publicly disclose energy usage information on large buildings. We had serious concerns about privacy in that bill. We negotiated, or we worked with stakeholders to get language in there that allowed for the aggregation of information based on time as well as customer accounts so that specific company information couldn't be extracted from that. CEC is working on workshops right now to fine-tune that privacy process. This bill would undermine that, and that anyone off the street can make a Public Record Act request for that information that we were trying to protect. So again, we would like to see this bill narrowed so that it doesn't apply to the electricity sector. Thank you very much.
Thank you. 2 minutes exactly. Well done. Yes, sir.
Thank you. It's a high standard to live up to. Michael Shaw, California Manufacturers and Technology Association, and I won't reiterate the privacy concerns that Mr. DiBernardo mentioned with regard to industrial users, but that cannot be overstated. Understanding what your competitors do, how much they're utilizing in terms of water, electricity, or natural gas, and understanding their business and the typical tools of the trade, you can discern what your production levels are of your competitors. And so that information we believe is proprietary, should not be disclosed. And fortunately, by removing this privacy protection for commercial, industrial, and institutional users, you would be able to understand what's going on within the business. So that is an anti-competitive issue. In addition to that, it's worth noting that the public agencies that, there are utilities in this case, that have this information, they do have policies that customers follow. And if they do not follow those policies, they have tools in place with which to enforce that, penalties in the case as high as $10,000 a day in some cases. So there are tools in place, and if those violations occur, if they're issued a citation with a penalty associated with it, that information is public. So we do know if public entities are finding customers, regardless of whether or not they're residential, commercial, industrial, institutional, whether or not they have violated that. So we do have that in place. If we're concerned about whether or not local agencies are doing their job, I would certainly suggest we look at other ways that we can ensure that those local agencies are doing what they've been charged to do, and that we not discriminate amongst customers based on the type of user that they are. We do know that one of the focuses of legislation like this is to bring about the opportunity to publicly shame companies for using large amounts of electricity or water. We saw this last year in the context of the drought, which continues to go on, obviously, with Nestle Water Company here in Sacramento being picketed and protested because they bottle water and we were in the midst of a drought. But that's a customer product that is in high demand. So, not providing the context of that information about what the company has done to reduce their water use or electricity use, not providing the context of the information about what's required for health and safety, maintenance of machinery and upkeep, health and safety of the workplace, the workforce otherwise, specific on the products. Without that in context and that information, it is very clear that this is an opportunity for certain groups to take advantage of that data to publicly shame companies without the context of what they're doing, the economic value and tax value that they're providing to the state.
Thank you very much. Other witnesses in opposition, name affiliation, please.
Gil Topidi with the California Municipal Utilities Association, representing 60 of the state's electric utilities and water agencies who are opposed to the measure for the reasons stated.
Thank you.
Dennis Albiani with Grocery Manufacturers Association of California Egg Farmers, California Warehouse Association, California Seed, California Grain and Feed. The one issue that does come out is that in investor-owned utility territory, this information is not public, but in public municipal utilities it would be. So there's a balance there.
I think we did include that in the analysis as well. So thank you. Witness, just name and affiliation, please.
Matt Klopfenstein on behalf of the Sacramento Municipal Utility District, strongly opposed.
Thank you.
Amber Blakes for the Independent Energy Producers Association, also in opposition.
Thank you.
Nicole Quinones for the Consumer Specialty Products Association, in opposition.
Thank you.
Javier Gonzalez, California Restaurant Association, opposed to the bill.
Thank you.
Matthew Harg with the California Business Properties Association, concerned about the impact on the benchmarking law.
Thank you.
Amy Malgo on behalf of the California Chamber of Commerce, in opposition.
Thank you.
Margot Parks on behalf of Family Winemakers of California, in opposition.
Thank you.
Dylan Gibbons with the California Special Districts Association, in opposition.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else in opposition? Open it up to the members. Any questions or comments? Senator Leno.
Through the past year of drought,
I've seen any number of news stories which have revealed names and, if not exact addresses, certainly specific neighborhoods of some of the largest water users, residential water users in the state. How is that currently being revealed?
Well, current law, and the reason for this bill was the original law that was passed in 1997 was to protect those individuals. So this bill has nothing to do with that. That law that was meant to protect residents has been now used by agencies to preclude providing information about commercial users. So what we're trying to do is clarify that original law and say, no, what was meant to protect residential information is to protect residential information and not be used for private commercial companies. So those individuals would still be protected because that information is not going to be able to be given out under this bill or actually under current law. Now, that's not true, as was mentioned, for violators. If somebody rises to the level of actually violating policy by using too much of a utility, they can be fined, they can be brought to the public because that then becomes a public process. So those highest users, when they're violating the policy of the utility, that still would be public. All other information with individual information would be private.
And has there been any consideration since, I think this is a 2-year bill, correct? Of focusing on water use specifically and leaving out some of the others?
Well, yes, although, let me explain that. What came to light was companies were claiming that PRA exemption because of the water issue, but the analysis really is the same for electrical, for any utility, is that the underlying law that was passed in 97 was meant to protect residential information, residential privacy. It was not meant to protect commercial companies. And so all we're doing is clarifying the intent of that law so that the use of it for refusing to give information under a Public Records Act request was not really being abused any further. It became acute because of the water crisis and with water agencies, but again, the analysis is the same whether it's water, energy, or any others, and we should be concerned about high energy users, especially when there's no rationale or understanding of what that energy use is or why.
Senator, if I could just add one small point there. Existing law under the public, excuse me.
Yes.
I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Further to the Senator's question, excuse me.
Thank you.
Existing law, it should be noted, already does protect proprietary corporate or commercial or financial information because existing law protects trade secrets. Trade secret law in California and federal trade secret law are fully incorporated into the Public Records Act. So to the extent there's concern, and you've heard it expressed by some of the others, about the sensitivity of certain corporate information being disclosed, it need not be disclosed if in fact that information constitutes a legally a protectable trade secret.
Thank you.
Questions or comments? Senator Morlock?
Trying to make an observation because getting some of this data, if you were to try and do something with it, you have disparate information and indirect information. With the drought, I was just looking up just on my cell phone how many gallons or how much water does it take, yada, yada. It takes 17.5 gallons to grow one apple. The next says 40 sheets of paper, 100 gallons of water. So, you know, it's a lot of water going in just to make a newspaper, right? So I'm just sort of all this information. I just find it interesting that you're gonna have a tough time getting the true story if you're looking for certain components of data.
Well, and again, this bill is not requiring any reporting. This bill is clarifying that the existing law that protects residential users from having private information disclosed can't be used for commercial, that same exemption can't be used for commercial enterprises. So that's all we're clarifying. It's up to the requester of the information to figure out what they're asking, what they're going to use it for, how to collate, or what to do with it. We're just saying that, no, the original intent of the law was to protect homeowners and residential information, but
not anybody else. So we're trying to stop the sort of inflamed use of this one law in an inappropriate way.
And then I guess as an observation, Madam Chair, usually this comes out of a committee bill. So I always think committee bills would be like ombudsman's bills that would kind of have no opposition. This one has garnered lots of opposition. I'm just curious.
Well, again, it started to clean up the old law, and folks are making assumptions and jumping on board, but I think it's still good policy, and it's something that we ought to consider. Now, if somebody wants to bring a bill forward that specifically includes commercial properties or private businesses in the existing law, that's a different subject matter. But I think we need to be careful when a law is passed for a particular reason and starts to get used for other reasons, that we make sure that we've narrowed it down and continue with the original intent of the law. That's why it was a committee bill. That's all we thought we were doing. And turns out everybody, I guess, likes to be able to utilize the sort of overblown or the abuse of the existing law.
Well, thank you, Chair Stone. Appreciate it.
So I guess the question becomes, why should we be giving greater protection to businesses than we give to people? Because the goal, as I understand it initially, and this goes to your question, was really to protect individuals, to protect their privacy.
Correct.
And so it has been used instead and interpreted by non-personal users, businesses, and what have you, claiming that they then are therefore entitled to greater protections than I believe was the intent of this bill. So I hope that explains it. This bill really was designed to protect individuals. It's been used as a way by businesses and non-personal people, but originally it was to protect individuals. And it's being used by businesses to say, we want those protections, but they weren't intended to have those protections. And I think that that's what this bill tries to clarify. Am I?
That's absolutely true. That if you think back before the 1997 law was passed, all this information was subject to a Public Records Act request. There was a law passed to protect residents, the information of private homeowners and residents. That's what the intent was. That's now being used in a way that goes beyond what the original intent was. And companies have the ability to protect trade secrets under Public Records Act. There are other mechanisms that these companies have. This is not an appropriate mechanism. All this bill does is clarify that this is not the appropriate mechanism.
And we'll take that as your close. Is there a motion? Moved by Senator Leno. Please call the roll.
The motion is due pass to Senate Appropriations. Jackson?
Aye.
Jackson, aye. Morlock? Morlock, no. Anderson? Anderson, no. Hertzberg? Leno? Leno, aye. Monning? Monning, aye. Wachowski? Wachowski, aye.
Let's see, that's 4-2. That measure has enough votes. We will, however, keep it on call for the absent members.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.